Hello, everybody. It's Christina Fasonic. I'm coming to you live from Wheeling, West Virginia, like I do a couple times a week. And tonight we have a new writer, and I want to introduce my co-host, Damian Dressick, who will be on. Um, I I did to confirm, Damian, that Nicole's name is pronounced Nicole.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah, the A is silent, and I think, and I'm sure that we will hear more about that in just a second. Um, so how's it going in your neck of the woods?
It is going well. I am looking forward to hearing Ms. Moretti. I'm just playing it safe.
There you go.
Ms. Moretti, just give some reading. She is from Robert Morris University.
Yeah, I saw that.
Some of the fun folks over at RMU, as well as CCAC.
I saw that, and that she does all kinds of things: photographer, writer, editor, and she also says that she just received a second Golden Quill nomination for her work with Mount Lebanon Magazine. And even though she was raised in the Ohio Hill Country, she now lives in Pittsburgh. And I'll bring her on here in a second, but I absolutely love Mount Lebanon, and my students work with the Mount Lebanon Historical Society all the time. So I'm really intrigued to find out what she's doing and writing about Mount Lebanon before we hear her reading.
Yeah,
so you ready for us to bring her on?
I can't wait.
All right.
Hello.
Here we go. We're going to mix it up this time.
How are you? I'm great, thanks.
Awesome. So it's Nicole, right?
It is Nicole. And that particular mess is one my mother made. And if she's around, I make her explain it.
That's right. Throw her under the bus. It's her fault.
Totally.
Totally. So tell me, what do you do for Mount Lebanon Magazine? What kind of things do you write for them?
Well, I think it's hard to be a writing teacher and not keep your hand in writing.
100%, yes.
I think so. It is my outlet for my more creative voice. Tonight will actually be the public debut of my private creative work, but usually I'm a journalist. I write profiles in our community and blog materials. My most recent article was about Ramadan and understanding sort of the sacred nature of it and really the intent and the tradition behind it through the eyes of one of our community members.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of either misconceptions or just lack of knowledge about that. So that's awesome. And I know I write for our community publications too, and I always learn so much because those aren't topics that would necessarily come up in my personal writing.
I love getting the opportunity to sort of be a mirror for people into parts of their community they might not see. As Appalachians, we have this storytelling tradition. That's the way we learn, right? We tell stories about great grandma, and we tell stories about the flood, and we tell stories about funny laws about pickles in the neighboring town. And those stories, that sort of storytelling rhythm in our voices and in our writing, isn't necessarily natural to everybody. And when you have that gift and you can then take it to show people, others in their neighborhood, they're like, here, meet this wonderful person and get to know them a little bit better. That's my favorite thing to do with my writing.
That's very cool. And how lucky are we that we get to do that?
It's a beautiful gift. Tonight we're actually talking about my life, though, which is very weird for me.
Well, let Damian and I turn it over to you. So we're going to step off. We'll be back on in a minute.
All right. Just by way of introduction, to give you some context, this piece is called Slag, and it's a true story that intersects with two people, Donna Sue Groves, who at the time that I was the Southeast Regional Coordinator for the Ohio Bicentennial Commission was the arts representative in our region. And she and I had a lot of overlap in history and grants and just wonderful people. And she was a mentor in my life and continues to be. Also, my son, Dom, who is 21 years old now, but at the time of this story, he's about 3. So here you go. Let's start out in the Wayne National Forest on a sort of standard work day full of history and friends. one pretty? Keep it, commanded Donna Sue, my friend and compatriot in public service. She thrust at me a sharp-edged and irregular piece of historic trash, plucked from the daisies of our national forest. Neither the park's historian nor conservationist made a peep as Donna Sue gave away this shimmering relic, irrevocably separating it from the iron furnace decomposing to our left. Obsidian green and vaguely translucent, the slag was heavier than it looked. This hunk of industrial refuse had lain in the tall grass for more than 100 years, left behind by countless workers, then campers and hunters. I obediently put the baseball-sized chunk in the floorboards of my car, for one does not question Donna Sue, who has the mystical authority of a mountain witch, complete with Birkenstocks and a broomstick skirt. The cold, silent furnace didn't object either. I half expected her to raise her weed-covered mound and cry out, "Kidnappers!" as I carted off the bastard child once belched from her belly. The slag was irreplaceable, begot by long-dead anonymous men in a smelting process forgotten in time. There would be no more. In the following weeks, I took the slag home, to work, and everywhere else I drove in that car, forgetting all about the relic, occasionally hearing it clunk, and covering it up with 20th century trash, until I was clearing out the car one day, and a jagged edge cut me. So I sucked on my finger and tossed the chunk into a flower bed with stones my then toddler Dom collected. We called this space the treasure bed and created it so my son wouldn't fill his room with rocks, sticks, pine cones, and leaves. Then I promptly forgot about the slag. Again. Eventually, Dom brought it to me and asked what it was. So we sat down on all the common rocks he usually held in such high esteem to examine the interloper. In that moment, the slag transformed like a dancer hitting her rhythm for the first time. It became more than it was because I saw it through his eyes. Holding it up to the sunlight, Dom and I closely inspected the transitions of color, midnight green and opal black, as the shades rolled over each other like a frozen wave in the ocean. We savored its smooth plains and plated jags. We peered through it as if it were a kaleidoscope until we found the springy green suspended in its depths. It was reborn, not as trash, but treasure. For months, Dom packed it around in his chubby little hands, sat it near him when he played, and placed it in the treasure bed by the door so it couldn't get lost. Holding it to the sun would cheer him with a consistency previously reserved for new race cars and magic bubble wands, pulling him forcibly from the land of introverts to a present reality, firing our imaginations with green flames. But that was before that I saw that everyday mysticism was the center of life, or at least before I accepted it. I didn't pack the black-green slag in the flower bed when we moved away in a frantic, exhausted, overworked rush. No one pointed out the slag's irreplaceable nature or threw it in the floorboards of the moving van as it pulled away. If only the slag itself could have risen from among its limestone, pebble, and pine twig neighbors to scream, "Forgotten!" Sometimes I wonder, all these years later, if the kids in the new family found our treasure and became connoisseurs of its opaque glory, or maybe they just ignored the weird rock. I wonder if some old-timer wandered by, knew the piece for furnace slag, and wondered how the hell that trash got there with no ironworks for miles and miles. Even though I drive by our old house sometimes, I'm not brave enough to stop and ask. Because what if this gift from the furnace, from my friend, and from my son is just gone? What if it's been consigned to oblivion by my failure to respect its unique worth? I left it to lie alone in the grass for another 100 years until someone else sees its potential. Perhaps the next person will mistake it for cosmic garbage flung here from another planet. Perhaps she will imagine a world where men of superhuman strength toiled endlessly until their backs broke and their lungs turned black. Perhaps she will conjure great steaming monsters on clanking wheels that carried creations from a fiery furnace to faraway places. Perhaps she will know that iron born of violent wombs would someday become the ancestors of gleaming high-rises that pierced soot-filled gray-green skies, and that this small relic is a monument to ingenuity. Thank you for letting me read this evening.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Outstanding.
I really enjoyed that. Did you see the comment from Greg Holden? He says, I'll post it again. I live by a huge slag dump. You make it sound so much more than industrial waste.
Oh, thank you. That's, it's so true of a lot of our Appalachian history. We take it for granted and it's sort of sitting there collecting dust. And if we shine it up a little bit, we remember how precious it is.
Yeah, and I think even if we don't shine it up, sometimes we just overlook, this dirty, reckless beauty for what it is, right?
Yeah, one of my favorite projects to work on during the bicentennial was the barn project. We did a lot of painting of barns originally as a publicity thing to show the logo to people. But what happened for me through that process was that I got to see all these beautiful farms and the families who had owned them, sometimes for more than 100 years. The one we painted down in Adams County, it had been in the same family ever since statehood. And the barn that we painted had been started by a gentleman who went off to be a Civil War captain and completed when he got back. And it was still standing, still had his square nails in it. And I think that those opportunities to be part of that story, even just to hear them, was a particularly precious part of that process for me.
Well, thank you. You got anything you'd like to add, Damien?
Well, I love the flash forward that you did toward the end. That was just so lovely, the way you kind of expand that image to take on all that, or to expose its meaning. That really was, I was really taken with that.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Thank you very much. This is a piece that I've fiddled with a lot. I think as writers, sometimes it's hard to put something down until we give it to an editor and send it away. And and
even then, when we see it in print.
Yeah, I'm pretty good about that. Once the paycheck comes, I'm pretty good at saying, thank you, that's no longer mine.
Yeah, right.
Once in a while, Merle's pretty forgiving, my wonderful editor at Lebanon Magazine. Every once in a while, if I send him a little note and I say, can we just change a word here or there? He's very gracious about it. But I think that this is a piece that I've fiddled with a whole lot, and this was a special opportunity, and this sort of brightening each other's lives in quarantine to roll it out and give it an airing.
No, the high level of craft really comes through.
Yes.
Really sharp work, linguistically, very impressive.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
We're really grateful for you sharing. Thank you.
Well, and it's been great fun to meet the two of you. I had high hopes of meeting you at the conference, but perhaps next time.
Oh, for sure. We're counting on it.
I will be happy to stop in the next time I'm out at RMU. I saw John Lawson was a viewer.
John Lawson is one of my mentors. For those of you who don't know him, he's a Pittsburgh poet, and he and Jay Carson are both very accomplished RMU poets that we're awful lucky to have in our lives.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time, Damien.
See you, Christina.
All right.
Take care, both of you.
Wheeling.
That's right. Oh, I love my wheeling. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.